Okay, real talk. What if I told you that almost everything you learned about the Civil War was wrong? Half of Americans today still believe the Civil War was primarily about states' rights, not slavery. Half of Americans. And here's the wild part. That belief didn't just accidentally happen. It was engineered, deliberately, by one of the most successful propaganda campaigns in American history. We're talking about the lost cause, a myth born from defeat that literally rewrote history books, built monuments, and shaped American culture for over 150 years. And today, we're going to break the whole thing down. The real causes, the Lincoln myth, the propaganda machine, and the facts that historians have been screaming about for decades. Stick around, because this one is going to mess with your head a little. Okay, let's go back, way back. 1860. Abraham Lincoln wins the presidential election, and the South is not happy. Within weeks, Southern states start doing something absolutely dramatic. They start leaving the Union. Now here's where it gets interesting. These states didn't just quietly pack their bags. Several of them actually wrote formal documents, official declarations, explaining exactly why they were seceding. Mississippi's Declaration of Secession opens with this line, and I want you to really hear this. Our position is thoroughly identified with the institution of slavery, the greatest material interest of the world. That is the first sentence. First sentence. South Carolina, same deal. Georgia, same deal. Texas wrote that they were fighting to maintain and protect the institution known as Negro slavery. I'm not editorializing here. That's a direct quote from their secession document. So when people say the war was about states' rights, well, technically, yes. But the one right at the center of the whole thing? The right to own enslaved people. Historians have been saying this for decades. The documents prove it. Before we go any further, I genuinely want to hear from you. Drop a comment right now. What did you learn about the Civil War growing up? Was it states' rights? Was it slavery? Was it something else? Seriously, the answers in the comment section are going to be wild. Okay, back to it. Okay, so here's where it gets genuinely fascinating, and honestly, kind of terrifying. Because the story of how the Civil War's history got rewritten is almost as dramatic as the war itself. The war ends in 1865. The Confederacy lost, badly, and Confederate leaders had a real psychological problem. How do you explain to your people, your kids, your grandkids, that you fought a 4-year war and lost? Enter Edward Pollard, editor of the Richmond Examiner. In 1866, just 1 year after the war, he published a book called The Lost Cause, and in it, he invented a whole new story. He argued the Confederacy wasn't really fighting for slavery, it was fighting for constitutional independence, for a noble agrarian way of life. And the enslaved people, according to The Lost Cause, they were happy, content, part of a gentle, paternalistic system. And then, over the next few decades, this myth went absolutely viral, long before the internet existed. Former Confederate generals like Jubal Early started organizing. The United Daughters of the Confederacy lobbied to get this version of history into public school textbooks. Confederate monuments, most of which were not built right after the war, but during the civil rights era of the 20th century, started popping up everywhere. Physical symbols of this alternative history. By the early 1900s, The Lost Cause had reached peak popularity. Hollywood picked it up. Birth of a Nation in 1915, Gone with the Wind in 1939. Children across the South were being taught a completely different war than the one that actually happened. All right, let's rapid fire through the other big Civil War myths, because there are several, and they are genuinely wild. Myth 1. The Emancipation Proclamation freed all the slaves. Nope, not even close. It was a war measure, and it only applied to Confederate states in active rebellion. The border states, Kentucky, Maryland, Missouri, Delaware, slave states that hadn't seceded, were completely exempt. Actual legal emancipation didn't come until the 13th Amendment in December 1865. Myth 2. Clean North versus South. Also no. Around 100,000 white Southerners actually fought for the Union Army. And anti-draft riots in New York City in 1863 killed over 100 people. The North wasn't exactly united either. Myth 3. Every Confederate soldier was personally fighting to preserve slavery. More nuanced than that. Most Confederate soldiers didn't own enslaved people. A lot were fighting for their home state, their community, caught up in something much bigger than themselves. Myth 4. Robert E. Lee was secretly opposed to slavery and fought reluctantly. This one has been thoroughly dismantled. Lee enslaved people at his Arlington estate, and by accounts was a particularly harsh enslaver. His famous anti-slavery letter? Read the whole thing. And bonus myth, Civil War surgery always meant screaming through amputations without anesthesia. Nope, anesthesia was used in approximately 95% of Civil War surgeries. The bite the bullet thing is mostly a myth. Here's the bottom line. The Civil War was about slavery. The Confederate States said so themselves, in their own words, in official documents, at the moment it was happening. The states' rights framing was invented after the defeat to make a catastrophic loss feel noble. History is messy. It doesn't fit into the comfortable stories we tell ourselves or the monuments we build. But understanding what actually happened, not the propaganda version, that's how we actually learn from it. If this messed with your head even a little, hit like, subscribe for more deep dives, and drop that comment. Tell me what you were taught. I'll see you in the next one.